Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 54 of the 40K Badcast. My name is Dan Boyd, and I am joined, as always, by... He's short, he's got reddish hair, he's got a beard. That's right. It's Crunchberry McGrudgebearer.
I thought you were just going to say Gimli, son of Gloin, but that works too, yeah.
No, I tried to... Well, Crunchberry is a fun word to say, and... You know, grudge bearer, dwarf, like a dwarf slayer. You're a dwarf slayer, is what I'm trying to say.
I'm a severely balding dwarf slayer. Yes.
I mean, you could do like the back half of a mohawk.
Yeah, it's a mohawk.
Oh no!
Business in the front, mohawk in the back. We're good.
Oh, that's a good look.
Yeah, I will not be cosplaying as a dwarf slayer at Nova this year, so you can look forward to me wearing pants.
Yeah, they really only rock the loincloth these days, don't they?
Well, these days they don't even always rock that. They just kind of rock a beard that's strategically placed over their crotch, Austin Powers style.
God, the Fire Slayers suck.
It sucks too because man, the character and overlords are so good in comparison.
They are. They're really good. New GW, right? New, we're calling it with air quotes.
Yeah.
The Age of Sigmar designs for the most part are amazing. And like you look at the Warcry stuff and it's unbelievable. And then you look at the fucking Fire Slayers and you're just like, what the fuck happened, guys?
See, the latest White Dwarf I got has the butt dwarves in the cover, and I can tell you one person who really likes that issue is my cat Numi. She has been licking that magazine endlessly. She's a very odd animal, and she just really likes to lick stuff. And that White Dwarf, she's been licking it till the corners have been curling. So if you've come over and picked up that magazine, I'm sorry.
Yeah, cats' brains aren't that big, Campbell.
I don't think Numi's is especially. She's a very special
Not a
girl.
whole lot of computing power behind those eyes.
No, she's about not even an abacus, really. She'd kind of get distracted by said slidey things on an abacus.
Well, enough about that bullshit. Let's actually do our show and open up with the Auspecs, where we talk about what's on our hobby radar, and we start with hobby progress. Now, Campbell, I didn't get a lot of hobby progress done in the past month. So, listeners, this is the second time in 2 months where we've had a month between episodes. And the first time is because both of us were very busy. Campbell had home improvement projects. I was getting ready for my wedding, and we just couldn't get together. This time, well, I went through some personal tragedy. My mother died 4 days after my wedding. And right now it's the 24th of July while we are recording this. And so she died on July 3rd. And we found her body on July 5th. So right after the wedding, it was kind of a very tumultuous time for me. So I couldn't record. I couldn't really do any hobby stuff. I was driving all over creation, taking my dad and my brother and our family and doing all the funeral stuff. And I know it's a comedy podcast about Warhammer 40,000, but I got to start off with some important stuff here. First, make sure you, your spouse, and your parents, make sure that the end of life plan is known for everybody. For you, your spouse, your parents, okay? And I'm talking like how you want to be buried, where you want to be buried, cremated, all this stuff. Like, make sure that was known. When my mom died, none of that was known. And so we had to scramble to figure all this stuff out. It was very stressful and very terrible. Make sure you have a will. Even if you're like a 30-something person who doesn't have any kids or something, have a will. It's important to, especially if you have assets, important assets. Like, it's important to let people know where that stuff goes. It makes it easier, way easier on everybody around you, and know what final disposition you want. What that means is, generally in most states in the United States, at least, when the death certificate is issued, you have to choose burial or cremation, and it's the first thing you have to choose. So know what your folks are, what your like grandparents, what your loved ones, whatever, know what that is. So it's not a whole situation when somebody does die. In addition, gang, you're going to want a ton of copies of the death certificate when somebody does die, because there are accounts people have, there are bills people have, there's a lot of stuff going on, and you want like 20 copies of that motherfucker so you can prove to like Sprint, like who doesn't want to close the fucking account, like, hey, I got the death certificate right here, and then they can close the account and, you know, fucking pound sand. So those are 4 things. Another thing, funerals are really fucking expensive. We've just gone through this. If somebody you know is nearing the end of their life, make sure you have some money around, because the shit is going to get really expensive really fucking quick. Again, in the States, you know, for all you Euro listeners out there, like, it might be different where you, but in the United States, most states, you have a funeral home has to handle the body after the police let it go. And what that means is they're going to hit you with a charge immediately, and you're not going to be able to get rid of that charge, because the funeral home has to be the ones that take control of the body. So have, and usually right then and there, that's like a couple of grand. So have money around in case. Another note, make sure the people that you love in your life know it. And again, I want to apologize for getting so heavy so early in the podcast here, but I want to get this away, and then we can get to the yucks afterwards. But seriously, make sure the people that you love in your life know it, because you don't know when the last time you're going to tell them is. So it makes sense to tell them all the time. And last, right, and then we'll fucking move on, call your fucking mom. Okay, if you still have a relationship with your mom or your dad or a parent or whatever, give them a call and just talk to them. Because again, you never know when you can't do it. Okay, well, let's move on from there. Sorry, listeners. It's important, though. Okay. I did finish some stuff recently, though, Campbell. So in the month between our last shows, I finished 3 whole models. The Primaris Eliminators, the Sniper Boys, and you know, I've been very busy with non-hobby stuff the last month, but these things took a long fucking time.
What gave you so much trouble with them?
The cloaks. It wasn't trouble so much as it was. It's just like a lot of coats. The technique is very labor intensive for the camouflage with all the different types of gray. So I'm glad that I don't have any more camo cloaks to paint from Shadow Spear.
Well, just you wait. I'm sure they'll find some way to throw more onto upcoming Phobos models or whatever happens in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm very happy with how they came out, though. They look really cool. There's a couple things I don't like about the models. One is that giant seam down the cloaks on the side of the crouching guys. So, because I painted them in sub-assemblies because I wanted to get the whole guns like able to get my brush in and make sure I had the chest able to get painted and everything, because I usually paint everything in sub-assemblies because I'm a fucking psychopath. And that seam on the cloak just sucks. It's just a terrible placement for it.
Yeah, it's you need to get real creative with plastic glue or some sort of gap filling medium. It seems like too small an area to really sand very comfortably too, so you have to be very careful with how you fill that in. Yeah.
But I do like the models. I think they look good. There's a lot of details on them. The cloaks are. It looks cool. The cloak effect looks cool. I think that the stuff that I've done with the cloaks is great. I love it personally.
I mean,
but man,
I think I mentioned on the last episode that I liked your cloaks better than I liked my cloaks. I think that's because I made the mistake of washing the entire cloak, not just the recesses. So it kind of muddied everything up and brought everything closer together. And by the time I did that, I was so fucking tired of painting big squares in these guys. I just let it go. Yeah. Like, that's good enough. It's good enough.
Yeah.
Who's going to care?
It's kind of a pain in the ass. And I'm glad that it's done. I'm not itching to do any more snipers or Phobos librarians anytime soon. So I also started putting together the Primaris Repulsor Executioner, the new tank.
Okay, the new boy.
So this thing it's just a repulsor, really. Just a repulsor with an added top piece and a different turret. And just like the other repulsor I did, I've got it fully assembled. Well, I should say fully broken down into sub-assemblies. It's still in 48 different parts. 49 different parts.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. So all it's
okay. The hover plates that makes up for like 20.
The hover plates, the little bits that you can stick on the side. I actually stuck them on before I primed last time, and then I couldn't get to like I hated it. It was bad. So I kept those off. I have the turret is in pieces right now because I'm not sure what I want to do with the guns, and I'm not sure how I want to, if I want to make it just a laser repulsor or even mess with the plasma. I'm leaning towards not messing with the plasma because it's going to take me a while to paint, and I don't want to paint it.
You also probably aren't really jonesing to overheat your tank to death.
No, I think that there are cheaper and better options for killing heavy infantry. Mm-hmm. And while, like, okay, Hellblasters, right? They exist.
Yeah.
They're good.
Yeah.
And they don't overcharge the strength 9 like that gun does, the macroplasma incinerator does. But it's, well, I guess heavy Hellblasters do, but I've literally never seen anyone use them. As far as battlefield role goes, the repulsor executioner to me, like, it fills that long range anti-tank that Primaris Marines don't have.
Right.
Really. So if I'm going to take a lot of plasma weapons, I'm going to take more Hellblasters because Hellblasters fucking rule. They rule more than tanks do for plasma stuff. So
they rule the most things in the Space Marine Codex, truth be told.
Yeah, I think I've just convinced myself to build a laser repulsor and not worry about the fucking plasma at all.
I don't think you're missing out.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So have you run into any problems with gaps in that thing? Well, I guess you haven't because you're still in sub-assemblies, but you haven't run into any problems with gaps.
No, so the gap situation is really within the hull. And if you are careless about how you are trimming your sprues, like you're trimming your stuff off the sprue, you can create gaps. You have to, and then when you glue it together, like you need clamps. You need at least 2 clamps because they're like my box. A couple of the pieces, like the side pieces, weren't
like the side armor
plates. They weren't straight, like 100% straight. But I have these clamps that I just bought at Home Depot. These small clamps. I keep saying fucking clamps are, and I use those. I put the plastic glue on, not the super glue, but the plastic glue, and clamp it together. And then leave it for like 20 minutes. And the plastic glue is a cement. It melts the 2 pieces of plastic together to make one piece. And after that, it's fine. The gap isn't there anymore because it's, cemented together. If you don't have like rubber bands or clamps or something to hold models together when they're gluing, especially when you're doing vehicles, like that's something that's got to be in your toolkit.
Yeah, I was thinking about the same thing with mine. I actually still have the rubber band on my desk I was trying to use, and I just ended up using my weak, puny, non-clamp hands to hold the thing together while I was assembling it, and I have paid the price for that.
Is there gaps?
Well, there were. I filled them all in with green stuff, and I sanded them down, and now there's a significant loss in definition along all the edges of the tank. Ooh. So I'm not crazy about it, but I weather the shit out of all my vehicles anyway, so I'll make it look intentional once it's all done. Yeah. So you have any other hobby stuff? I
ran into this problem the first time I built a Baneblade, like the big gap problem, because the Baneblade kit isn't great, and I had to go out and buy a rubber band ball from Staples. Oh. Because I didn't have any fucking rubber bands, and I was like, "Oh, this could do it. This will help," and I did, and it worked fine.
Yeah, no, the only rubber band I have here says produce of Peru because it was around the asparagus I had for dinner last week. But
yeah, I have these little. I think they're Stanley clamps. Mm-hmm. Clamps.
Give them the clamps, Dan.
And keep fucking saying it. So yeah, that's all I've been able to do in the last month as far as hobbying goes. And I wish I could do more. I know that you've done quite a bit.
Yeah, I've been pretty prevalent in the last month or so. Now that I've got my whole hobby space set up again.
Yeah, and my mom's passing has really kind of fucked me up for Nova too. I wanted to get 10 infiltrators done before Nova, but it's not going to fucking happen. There's no way.
There's more important things than painting toy soldiers sometimes, unfortunately for us. But
It's true. It's sad but true, like that bad Metallica song.
That mid-tier Metallica song.
Oh man, I was listening to I was at the gym yesterday and I was listening to Spotify's Thrash Essentials playlist.
Uh-huh.
And they had a Metallica song on there from an album after Injustice for All.
I would not say that's Essentials anymore.
And I nearly threw up. Okay, Metallica time.
Okay.
I've heard a couple of songs off their latest album, which I think was last year or potentially the year before.
Yeah.
Which they sounded fine. They're actually pretty good. I was like, oh, this is fun. This is good.
Not
bad.
Yeah, I'll be the one who's like, every period of Metallica has something I like about them, whether it is the old school thrash stuff that feels very raw and real, whether it's give me fuel, give me fire, give me thabba or everything but Saint Anger, I think, has some merit to it.
Here's a hot take. This is a hot take that might get me in trouble too.
Oh boy, here we go.
The Black Album sucks.
I will say it was my first Metallica album, and it is probably the one that got the least play through when I was a very angsty teenager. Yeah. I'd say there's a few songs in there I kind of have some good feelings about, but I never need to hear Enter Sandman again.
Enter Sandman's shit. It's a bad song.
It's got nothing
that
on
whole
Four
album's
Horsemen.
terrible.
Got nothing on Four Horsemen.
Injustice for All is my favorite.
So I think I was more of a Ride the Lightning guy, but
that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. We can agree to disagree.
All opinions on 80s metal are valid in this exact conversation.
All right, what the fuck were we talking about?
We're talking about building repulsors mostly.
All right, so what have you been working on?
All right, so as I was alluding to by explicitly stating earlier, building the repulsor was kind of a pain in the ass for me because I got a few gaps in there. It sucks because a lot of it went together like a dream, and then other parts of it, I'm like, oh, it's like I'm building the old Land Raider all over again, which is just kind of a problem with any piece of plastic that size. But learning to gap fill, which I'd never really done before, was kind of cool, even if the results of it were, I wish, maybe not on an $80 tank kit. And I started painting that guy, and that's also in a bunch of sub-assemblies. Not, what is it, 44 like you did? How many sub-assemblies?
49. Though that's gonna get reduced because I'm discarding the plasma gun. I'm just not gonna fucking use it.
Okay. So yeah, mine was in however many hover plates there were, plus like the engine cowling things, the turret, the cupola, and
you have to keep the engine cowlings off.
Yeah, you can't
because
get around them.
If you put them on, then you can't paint the engine base that's like up against the hull, and then you can't like paint the fucking because I'm a fucking psychopath. I can't edge highlight the edge the fucking engine cowling itself.
Oh no, same here. That was actually my exact thinking, and I even primed it separately and everything. So I just did Stormbolter turrets for everything on it because I understand that gun, and I don't need to remember anything.
It's the best one.
I'm trying something different where I'm trying to paint every part to completion before I actually move on to the next one. Because a lot of the time when I've got this fucking like spread of 35 bits or whatever, I'm like, oh no, I forgot to paint the lens on left Stormbolter barrel 2 or whatever the fuck. So this time I'm just, I was like, okay, all the Stormbolter turrets done, main gun turret done, cupola gunner done, engine cowlings done. So all the bits of it independently, except for the base and the main body of the tank, are finished. I've just done almost all the edge highlighting on the base model of the tank, so I'll have to clean that up, which means buying some new paint, some out of Wolf 1 Gray, doing some transfers, then I weather everything, varnish everything, and it'll be good to go. Like that guy has come with me to Nova, and that will round me out to 2,000 points, fortunately. I think actually a little over, but whatever. So other than that, I finished all 10 of my infiltrators, and I painted my 3 suppressors. And the suppressors were fun because I did the same trick I did on my Inceptors where I just didn't highlight the bottom half of the model and I just weathered the fuck out of it. Because I figured these guys are deep striking. They're crashing through ceilings. They're crashing through stuff. All that stuff's going to get chipped up anyway. So I just figured spare myself.
That's actually more of an Inceptor game, the crashing through ceilings and coming out of space.
These guys
the suppressors are sneaky. They're sort of flitting from place to place.
They're more sitting in my deployment zone and not moving from turn 1 onwards because I want them to actually hit something. But
that's a good point.
Still, it was an excuse to do that sort of weathering and just kind of speed things along because they have the same sort of boots as the Inceptors, where it's just got all these pipes and cables and round bits and shapes that are just kind of can be tricky to highlight, especially when you do scenic bases like I did instead of just having them on the doodle bopper stands.
Yeah.
But that even with all that stuff on them, I still got to do some cool heraldry and, cool patterns in their boots that kind of, make them look kind of I don't know, the yellow and black checkers I did in their boots and on their heraldry just makes you think of pilots for some reason. Maybe it was on the cabinet for Afterburner or something like that.
No, I've seen them. They look great.
Oh, thank you. It's a shame about how they do on the tabletop.
Yeah, they seem... Well, I've never seen them on the tabletop, or haven't yet, rather, and they just seem somewhat underwhelming.
You will be underwhelmed at Nova when we play against each other. you can take that one to the bank, literally everyone I'm playing at Nova.
Nice. Very nice.
So do you want to get into games played or what is on our hobby radar as far as new releases and such goes?
Let's do games played. It's usually Hobby Progress, games played, and new releases, Campbell. This is the 54th episode of the fucking show.
I don't think there's a usually in this case. It almost never starts with games played, but the first two are kind of, they flip between the two.
Oh, no, it's like that every single episode.
Do you have a template or something like that you actually follow for hobby notes and show notes? Wow, that makes one of us. See, mine is like copy pasted from all sorts of places. There's different colors, there's different fonts. There's some things are italic for some reason. The inspirational quotes, those are always a wild card.
Jesus Christ, dude. No, I have a show template that I stick to for every show.
You know what? Let's continue this dynamic by not having you share that with me and just let me fly by the seat of my pants every fucking 2 weeks.
I'm the good podcaster.
I am the guy who's also here. I do voices for cartoons sometimes. There we go. That's how you can tell.
Oh man, I was getting heat on my work podcast the other day.
What for?
I was trashing Harley Davidson. Though I think most Harley Davidson riders aren't listening to an internet podcast about stock investing because most Harley Davidson riders don't know how to use the internet.
Oh! I mean, I'm going to also
take that, boomers.
Take that, people who also aren't listening to this podcast either.
All right, let's talk about games played.
Yeah.
I'm going to go first because usually you go first in games played, but I'm going to go first this time because I didn't play any fucking games. Okay, now it's your turn.
Cool. So I went to Dylan's. He had a 3-game narrative event sort of thing. I had a note somewhere saying what it was called, but it was just a little narrative event where he had scenarios written up for every single player, and he was kind of GMing it. So, everyone got a personalized packet saying, game 1, Ultramarines versus Necrons, game 2, Ultramarines versus Chaos. I assume other people's didn't say Ultramarines versus other things, but I didn't check. But we all
the fucking entitled Ultramarine player over here.
I mean, I was the entitled Knights player last year who got a call out in the packet saying, don't get salty if you get tabled by Knights. I did not table much this time around. I'm just going to throw that out there at all because I brought Space Marines and not Knights. So we all had named characters. My named character was my Gravis Captain Vulpes Vulci because the only thing better than bad Latin is alliterative bad Latin.
What's his name? Vulpes Vulci?
Vulpes Vulci.
You have to say it like that?
Yeah, you do. And you have to do... I'm doing the hands thing. You can't tell, but I'm doing the hands thing. Got to hear the music in it.
The chef's kiss thing?
The dual chef's kiss thing, I'll have you know.
Should I throw a little Tarantella Neapolitana under that when you say Vulpes Vulci?
Please do. And every time he issues a challenge, he has to do the chef kiss with his Boltstorm gauntlet. That's when he finishes a challenge.
I challenge you!
So, yeah, I looked through, I was bored at a bookstore and I looked through a Roman history book in the back and I was like, what's a cool name? There we go, Vulci. And Vulpes is fox appears. He's like, the galactic fox. Never mind. That sounds like a furry chapter. Anyway. So my first game was against Jimmy's Necrons, who he had these similar...
I thought I had a super nerdy way of naming my Space Marine characters.
Well, you're still bird stuff.
Yeah, it's all birds, but you got it. Vulpes Vulci. I'm sorry. A Vulpes Vulci.
Well, that's the thing. When all the Horus Heresy stuff is so either Roman bedecked or looks like a Greek diner on treads, I've got to kind of keep that theme going. I still do have some of the, I can't remember what that pattern is. It's always around Greek vases and stuff like that. I might find the place to put it on my repulsor, though.
Greek diner on treads. Oh no!
So
it's perfect though.
The fact that they're blue and white too really helps it. But anywhoomst, first game was against Jimmy's Necrons, and he had his overlord Lord Bellyflop. So he also took the naming conventions to heart, I guess. and we had to fight over. The center of the table had a Adeptus Mechanicus excavation thing going on. So Dylan had like a tech priest and a few Scutarii and the Forge World like aliens lifter sentinel, like that sort of thing. So it looks like a little dig site. And basically the Marines are supposed to protect the people in the middle. The Necrons are supposed to kill them. And there was an objective in the middle to cover too. The problem is the Necrons got first turn, and while my Ultramarines were safe first turn, a bunch of T3 models in front of a bunch of rapid firing Necron warriors were not safe first turn. So all the AdMech stuff got wiped right away. And Dylan's like, I probably should have thought that through a little bit more. So that happens. My Ultras move up. And because I got basically a free turn of not getting shot at, I got to kind of move up and fire off and do a lot of damage right up front. So yeah, I did just fine, honestly. My guys ran up, did a lot of damage. I got to even get Volupus Voci into single combat with Lord Bellyflop. He didn't know. There's a Necron stratagem that ignores invulnerable saves in close combat with Necron Overlords that he didn't know he had until like the next game against Dark Eldar. And I'm glad he didn't know that because I had a 3-up invul and I passed every one of them. Very nice. My Lord punched his guy out. He played the thing that lets him get back up, and Vulpus was like, "Oh no, not this time," and just decided to punch him out a second time.
Not this time, Lord Bellyflop.
Anyway, that was a tie because I did take the central objective, all the AdMech guys got wiped right away. Now the next game, I find that
Necrons, whenever I play against Necrons, like they don't really do anything.
I'd say they did a bit. I'd say there's a good volume of fire. I would say the death marks didn't do anything. I even got to use that Auspex scan stratagem when they popped up to just do some damage to them. But yeah, Immortals, those guys are scary. Destroyers are really scary.
Okay, Immortals and Destroyers, they do stuff. But like the rest of the Necron shit, like, I don't know. I guess they got that big super heavy from Forge World. That thing can kick some ass, but yeah. I always like the couple of times I've played Necrons, it's just been like, all right, your shooting phase, it begins, and you killed nothing. Cool. Yeah. My shooting phase, and I've killed everything. Half of it got back up, but I killed, a bunch of stuff. So I don't know.
The last time I played against Necrons was like a 1,000 point game where the guy brought a pylon, and I just had infantry, so he just like nuked like 2 scouts a turn. Oh no.
Hard to score objectives with a giant thing that can't move.
With a building? You don't say. Not a very mobile element there. My second game was against Kyle's Black Legion. I can't remember the name of his warlord, but we both had the objective to slay each of this warlord with our warlords. The thing is, his warlord is a Lord Discordant on the big, Hell Scuttler thing, and mine's just a dude.
And yours is a guy in a Gravis suit, right?
He's a big dude, but the other guy's a bigger dude with a chainsaw and a stick. So I got to set up in the
That's always my favorite snack at a Renaissance fair.
Chainsaw and a stick?
Sorry.
I'm not actually even sure I get that joke. I'm just happy to say chainsaw and a stick for a third time just this moment.
Haven't you been to a fucking Ren fair?
Not since I was a small lad.
Are you telling me that you, fucking Crumbles McLumbles, fucking you haven't been to a Ren fair as an adult while I have?
Yes, I feel like I'm weirdly being flexed on right now.
No, it's just very surprising.
It is fairly surprising.
If you were gonna like put us in a lineup, all right, like let's go through this mental exercise. If you're gonna put us in a lineup and the police officer was gonna tell you, now which one of these motherfuckers did you see at the Ren fair? Do you think it would be me or do you think it would be you?
Well, it depends. Are you at that moment holding a giant turkey leg?
I mean, that's like me normally, though.
Then there you go. You're picked out of the lineup.
Oh, my brother has a smoker. Smoked turkey is delicious. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's move on to your next game.
That's fine. I'm cool to meander. Because that lets me extend the length I'm going to be talking about the second game, because it was very short. So I got to set up in the classic Space Marine battle pile. Yes. Dylan even broke out the third, like the Realm of or Eye of Terror campaign had this one piece of ruined chapel scenery that was like a pre-painted resin piece. It's a beautiful piece. Even has like the stained glass plastic in it. He puts that down. My deployment zone was that. The problem is that deployment zone is 12 inches from a Black Legion army.
Uh-oh.
So turn 1, being a bloodthirsty idiot, I move forward so everything can rapid fire.
Oh, shit.
Rapid fire, I do get a first blood point. The problem is he got the rest of the blood right after. The Lord Discordant charges in even after I do some damage to him. He kills Vulpus Vulci, but I'm able to avenge him with my Primaris Lieutenant, just the guy with the power sword that we got from a listener a while ago.
Yeah.
And he's able to avenge him, and by the time he's done avenging him, he's the only Ultramarine model left on the table. So he runs back to the main objective where he gets eaten by the Venom Crawler, that's really all there was about that game. Kyle is a delightful opponent. It was just a tough scenario.
Did you use the Space Marine stratagem to fight right before you die with Vulpus Vulci?
I did that every time I had the opportunity to. I have every time I've had the opportunity to in this entire codex, honestly.
Great. Okay.
In fact, I also had to use a lot of the fight twice stratagems because Space Marines aren't very good in hand-to-hand combat.
It's true. I guess like Smash Captains from Blood Angels are.
Yes.
And
Let's see. How many
Guilliman.
Space Marine units are there? Like 115?
About what?
And there's like 115 distinct Space Marine units or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And there's 2 outlier characters who are pretty good. A Space Marine melee army, this is not, all right? I've played Black Templar so long enough to know that that's not the strong
Whatever,
point.
how many games at Adepticon did you win with your Black Templars?
Most of them.
Listeners, what I'm trying to say is don't fucking listen to us when it comes to advice on what are good units.
Oh god. Well, I was having a game with Gundam John, which I'll get into later, where he was like trash talking me at the start of the game, and I was like, "Yo, yeah, tell that to my 3 medals." I did break them out, and by halfway through turn 1, I put them away. So that shit's heavy, man. By the 3rd game of this tiny narrative event, which is this really whole thing just took like 6 hours. Like it was an afternoon sort of event. I got to play against Cody's Dark Eldar, and he is a shrewd opponent. Like he is always a very tactical opponent. Like that's why he's super good at, Blood Bowl is kind of his game because he's very good at planning and, a few turns ahead and mitigating risk. And he plays his Dark Eldar army like a fucking scalpel. And every time I play against him, I always feel like I feel bamboozled. He is doing me a bamboozle from turn 1 every time we play. So in this game, I kind of had that notion. I felt kind of crummy. And after I was like, okay, I want to play against you later and we can just talk through this and figure out what makes Dark Eldar tick. Like, what is some of the reason behind your strategies and all that? And we did get to do that later. But over the course of this game, it was just me defending a shuttle, which had a few VIPs around it, but they just kind of stood around it. So they just kind of waited outside an idling Valkyrie for 5 turns while my Marines just kind of had to defend them. And right when he seemed like he was about to jump in there and his Incubi and Archon were about to charge in and get the guys or jump out of the Raider and get the VIPs, Dylan gives me a piece of paper saying, you have a squad of intercessors hiding in the Valkyrie. So I got to play a gotcha card I didn't even know I had, surround the Raider, kill it, and have the entire third of Cody's army inside just get surrounded, not able to get out, and just instantly die, it's a really feel bad move. And I can't feel that bad about it because I keep doing it to him. But yeah, it's I ended up winning that one basically because of that little card thing. Again, it's a narrative sort of event, so these things are going to happen. But I felt a little bad because I'm like, oh, well, sorry, I don't want to lose.
Sorry, Dylan's letting me win this.
Thanks for the layup,
it's
Dylan.
His house, so I guess we have to do what it says.
But it was still a fun event, even if some of the scenarios skewed one way or another. It was still a fun event. Cody still ended up taking it because his Dark Eldar were running roughshod pretty much everywhere, and they're even in these small games, they are nasty. They're a hard army for Primaris Marines to deal with, which I learned again when I played against them last week. So this time was that thing where I was talking about. It's like, okay, we're going to kind of explain what does everything do? What all these things do? What kind of stratagems and relics might you have? The things you actually should ask your opponents on the regular before a game, but I just never think to, because when I'm playing, most of the armies I play are like Marines, Orcs, Chaos guys. I kind of get everything they do, so I don't need these things explained to me. But Dark Eldar, he's the only Dark Eldar player I've reliably played in the 15 years I've been playing this game. So it's it's good to have some perspective on the army. So this game was at my house. Now that I've got my new setup, and I don't even remember what the mission was anymore. Oh, it was the one with the invulnerable the anti-invulnerable save circle in the middle and the shrinking thing. And that was cool because all his vehicles have invulnerable saves, and all his witches have invulnerable saves, and they were in the middle. And again, he is so fast. So I was able to just kind of hold that for a few turns with my infiltrators because they're super good for that sort of thing, and rack up a few points. But while I was racking up those points, he was just closing that noose around my army and surrounding me and working his way in. While that circle worked its way in, he worked his own way in. And the game did it on turn 5 with me getting tabled, but it was a 5-6 loss. So I feel really good about it. Now, my winning strategy here, though, was I had your typical like Space Marine death ball of just a bunch of intercessors and infiltrators and a banner and a captain and lieutenant and this whole thing. And he had a bunch of witches who were on the objective. I had like 2 infiltrators in the objective and he had like 10 witches. So every time he killed one of my dudes with shooting, I would roll the banner and I'd start gunning down the witches until I wore the squad down enough that at the end of the turn, I still got the points for it. So I felt really proud of that, actually, just like actually cutting my nose off to spite my face. But yeah, it was a good game. It was a tough game, but it was a good game.
Cutting your nose off and then you would sneeze blood at him.
He was going like, yeah, about to say, he was like, got your nose. And I'm like, no, you don't. But anyway, these are a lot of imperfect metaphors. Just forget I said any of them. All right. The 5th and final game I've played, because it's been a lot of gaming, actually, which is real nice, was against Gundam John's AdMech, which was just yesterday. So I've never played AdMechs, or I've only played AdMech with the index list. And that was, the game a long time ago at Peter's. So this was kind of a new experience for me. So I did the same sort of thing. I'm like, okay, what does everything do? And I got the overall notion that if it's not a robot, I can kill it with a bolter really easily. And that's what I did. So he had this big blob of cataphrons moving up, and I just focused them down with hellblasters and focused them down with, pretended to focus them with suppressors. They don't hit a goddamn thing anyway. And did all my bolter fire and everything else. And by wearing them down and blowing them up and just, then I could just focus on the little 5-man Skitarii squads. I was able to pretty soundly take the game. It was just 4 objectives on the table spread out pretty evenly. And yeah, it was fun. Like it was a cool experience to, play against this army I don't really play against. I hadn't played 40K with John since before we actually knew each other. Like we met at a tournament like 12 years ago or something crazy like that. So it was cool to actually get a actual 40K game in now after all this time.
You've been busy.
So that's a lot of, I've been playing a lot of games and painting a lot of models.
Glad to hear it. So let's talk about some new stuff. Chaos Knights came out right after we finished our last podcast. They seem pretty strong. From everything on the internet tells me that they are actually very strong with some good builds and some cool stuff. They have like a whole bunch of different ways to personalize and have traits and all that sort of stuff. And it seems cool. And the new models for them look rad as fuck.
I look forward to those new models absolutely stomping my guys into the ground when I'm playing against them at Nova, because that's going to be happening. I guarantee it. Like if they're as strong as people are saying, they're going to get souped into Chaos armies, just like Imperial Knights get souped into Imperial armies.
We'll get a lot of that at Nova, and we'll get to learn firsthand how good they are. Also, the Wood Elf Blood Bowl team came out with the associated Spike magazine, and they were accompanied by Willow Rosebark, who is a Dryad star player for Blood Bowl.
Okay.
So I'm somewhat interested in this, though, because I want to do an elf team for next Adepticon.
Yeah, you were mentioning you wanted to do some elf bullshit last time we talked.
Right. And I'm deciding between Wood Elves and Elven Union, and I'm not sure which one, where I am yet. But those are my choices, and they're both exciting because it is simultaneously the most fun and most annoying way to play. It's not the most annoying way to play Blood Bowl, because dwarves are the most annoying way to play Blood Bowl. So it's the second most, I suppose. It's just like passing and a lot of scoring and the high risk, high reward play style that is just, it's a ton of fun.
See, the Wood Elf team has one of my favorite models of all time, which is just the random elf face. Just a freestanding, angry elf face.
Dude, that's like what's that guy's name? Wayne England? Was that his name?
It looks just like a Wayne England drawing. Like who, again, I adore his artwork, and seeing it represented in the third dimension is really weird. But also, I don't know what the fuck it does. Is it like a turn counter?
Yeah.
Okay, because there's two of them in the box too, which is extra confusing.
One's a turn counter or one's a reroll counter. Yeah, that's
okay. Cool.
Every Blood Bowl team comes with like a little piece of flair like that for counters. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, because to the uninitiated, it's just like, what's that? Oh, it's my freestanding elf head. I have two, by the way.
I mean, if you're gonna have one, you might as well have two, right? So they announced the Eisenhorn television show.
All right, I feel like okay, no.
Somebody's got opinions.
I do have opinions. They're largely positive and a bit speculative. The people involved are the people involved with Man in the High Castle TV show, which is apparently very good. My sister loves it. I've actually never seen it, but I've read the book.
I watched the first episode, and then I realized it was like a weird time travel parallel dimension show, and I immediately was like, nope, don't care.
Oh, that's a little different than the book, but also it's Philip K. Dick, so that's every other thing he writes. Anywho, it's got like a real production company behind it. They also did the Medici show for Netflix, which I assume someone watched. But here's my guess. I have this strong... All right, they're going to have to cast someone as Eisenhorn who is recognizable to people who might not be Warhammer people, because they're trying to sell this, which is, I guarantee it's going to be on Amazon or Netflix or some streaming service. I have this like feeling in my heart of hearts that Mark Strong is going to play Eisenhorn.
Ooh.
He's not even my dream cast person for him. He lands firmly in that tier of celebrity who would do it. And also I think largely it's covered by the fact he's done Warhammer stuff before. Like I think he voiced Eisenhorn in the Eisenhorn video game that, did you know that came out? It came out years ago. No one knew it came out because it was not good.
Didn't know about it. Wow.
But he was also Captain Titus in the Space Marine video game. I just have this gut feeling he is going to play Eisenhorn. Also, because when they do eventually, have him go bald, he usually is anyway.
They're gonna botch it. I like the casting, the show. I have like no faith in shows, like in scripted television right now. After the complete debacle that was Game of Thrones, it's gonna be a giant botch. It's gonna be terrible, and I'm gonna watch all of it and I'm gonna seethe.
Or it might be 5 pretty good seasons and 3 not ones. Who knows? We'll find out.
Yeah, vamos a saber. Okay, after that, they released the Squat Ammo Jack for Necromunda, who is a little bit better than an Ammo Jack in that you can use him in every game. Ammo Jacks are like the hangers-on that when you have to use a hanger-on, you get the Ammo Jack and you're like, oh, fuck yeah, because Ammo Jacks are good.
Yeah.
So he's good. He's good combat. He weirdly doesn't have the munitioneer skill.
The thing Ammo Jacks would have. All right.
Yeah, which may be an oversight on the Specialist Game people's part. But he seems pretty good. Like it's a good thing, and it's a great model.
It's a great mini, although there's a definite squat tax because for the same price as just him, you get the human Ammo Jack and the Dome Runner.
Yes, yeah, for model wise, yeah.
Yeah, there's a squat tax. Yeah. You are definitely, there's a premium on resin what's being pressed into Grundle Scruncherson.
Right, but with the squat Ammo Jack and the squat Bounty Hunter, you can actually have squats.
This is incredibly true.
Which, I mean, we haven't had that for at least 2 decades.
No, at least. Although, I mean, my ideal gang is just going to be like 2 squats and a sump croc, but I don't think I can do that just yet.
It's also your ideal body type. Anyways, okay, so the new Sisters Repentia got teased on Warhammer Community, and I fucking love them. I think they look fan-fucking-tastic.
So they've been showing bits off here and there, as we all know. This is like Battle Sister Bulletin 15 or some shit. And they showed off just the regular troops last time. They showed off like a painted model. They showed off how they've got the buttons on their sort of robes that they can pin back to actually be combat ready, which is such a cool little like attention to detail sort of thing. Yeah. But I think the Repentia are what's actually selling me on like, all right, I'm going to buy some of these things.
Yeah, because the regular Battle Sisters so and the characters, you see them and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That looks great. Yeah, Sisters players are going to be happy. And then you see the Repentia models, and I'm like, oh, fuck yes, dude. Yes, I want that. That is so tight.
Line infantry are just where my heart is. So, yeah, they're my favorite thing to paint. They're my favorite thing to field. And when they show the Plastic Sister battle, they're like, I'm like, oh, this is exactly what I've always pictured, but now it's in plastic and it's more dynamic and much more detailed. This is great. But the Sisters of Battle, those are like the showstopper, or the Sisters of Penture. Those are the showstoppers as far as I'm concerned. Like, those models are so dynamic. Their details are so cool. I like that they're not just wearing electrical tape.
Yeah.
I like that they just have, needles in them and like brands in their heads and all this stuff. They look like psychotic, repenting, like crazed zealots, and they are exactly what I want them to be.
Who'd have thought? When models aren't horny, they're actually good.
Who'da thunk
it? All right, and the last thing I want to talk about for new stuff is Warcry, the skirmish combat game for Age of Sigmar. And I really want to focus on how completely uninterested I am in it now.
Oh, what happened? What did it?
It's skirmish combat for AOS. It's like Kill Team. It's the AOS version of Kill Team. And Kill Team is boring to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Warcry, you could probably get people together who are gonna have a good campaign or whatever, but nobody fucking plays the Kill Team campaigns. Everybody plays the Kill Team arenas and Kill Team one-offs, and like I don't know. If I'm gonna do skirmish combat, I want it to be like that ultra granular, like you're able to get into the weeds because there's only 10 models on your side, as opposed to 40K when you have to actually abstract some stuff, or Apocalypse where you have to abstract some stuff. Like Kill Team, I think it. Well, okay, and I am clearly in the minority here, seeing how popular Kill Team is to play. I like the idea of small model games having more depth to them, not similar or less depth than their larger model. Now, that being said, I've seen some of the data cards or whatever, war scrolls or whatever for the miniatures in Warcry, and some of them have like 15 wounds. So maybe I'm off here. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but they're advertising it as the skirmish version of AOS, and I don't have any interest in that.
I think that's a very easy sell, and by integrating other factions into it, it makes it an even easier sell. I think they just want to have it so anyone can buy in. I get that from an accessibility standpoint.
Yeah.
But I also do get that there is a saturation point we've reached as far as games are concerned, and a saturation point especially of skirmish games.
Yes.
Because there's an AOS skirmish, a 40K skirmish, Necromunda's a skirmish. We've talked before how Adeptus Titanicus is more or less a skirmish game, since you only got like 3 to 5 miles on the side. Like, we've got a lot of skirmish games going on here. And even Shadespire or Warhammer Underworlds is a very different flavor, but still a more or less a skirmish game.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I watched the like how to play video. I've read over some of the rules. Like, it sounds really fun to play. Like, it sounds like a tight, well-designed game. I just don't know if I have the time for it. And I feel like even if I were to get the starter set and paint everything in it and be like, oh, hey, friend, over to my house, here's, the Iron Golems or whatever, we're going to play a game. We might play a couple games and that'll probably be it. Like, I don't think they'd buy into it just because, again, there's such a saturation point. Because right now in my group, I feel like any group can kind of withstand one army game and one skirmish game at a time, more or less. Yeah. Because in my little local group, it alternates between being Age of Sigmar or 40K for the big game. But Necromunda has been the only skirmish game that's stuck.
Yeah.
And that's the one we come back to. And I think that is the flavor of skirmish game that my group is going to ascribe to, which is a shame because, again, I think this game looks really cool. Some of the features in it, like how it determines priority and how those give you more or less like command point type abilities over the course of the turn, are really clever. And I think they'd be really fun to do. And the models, holy shit, the models are gorgeous.
The models are so fucking good. I do want to get the Corvus Cabal and just paint them, but I don't know if I'll ever play.
Yeah, I get that. But also they've put out all 6 or the first 6 warbands. You've seen them all. They have war scrolls for Age of Sigmar. They're all bad in Age of Sigmar because they're not, well, it's like the Shadespire warbands in Age of Sigmar. Yeah. They're not meant for that game. Yeah. You can use them there, but at the end of the day, this is like 8 dudes with 6-up saves and 1 wound each. Yeah. Like, they're not going to do much. But I love the minis, like the Iron Golems, and like, I don't know if my favorites are probably the Untamed Beasts because I love that Conan shit. And the Iron Golems, because I just love plate mail and chain mail and heavy armor and all that stuff. But I hope at Nova maybe someone will have it and I can just kind of like get a test game. I would love to be convinced.
Warcry, like to be converted. But that's. I mean, another thing is like we did our Patreon episode on Age of Sigmar, and while I think Age of Sigmar, there's a lot of attraction to me for that. It comes down to fucking time, dude. Like I'm playing 3 games. I'm playing 40K, I'm playing Blood Bowl, and I'm playing Necromunda. And there's only so much fucking time.
Yeah, well, that's actually like not to shit on 30K as we so often do, but that's one of the reasons. Like when 8th Ed 40K came out, I'm like, this is a different game now. I can't keep this many games just like going in my head and so on. So I'm choosing the one that people actually play.
Yeah. All right. Well, Warcry, love the models. Let's. Maybe we should just pump the brakes a little bit and actually like get a demo or something of Warcry, maybe at a Games Workshop store or something. Because I'd like to know more. I'm clicking that little button on the Starship Troopers video. I'd like to know more. Okay, let's move on to We Make the Call, where we do that. We make the call.
A call will be made.
A quick appeal to you listeners. Please send us your questions for We Make the Call. I'm down to like 3 or 4 in my good WMDK questions document. So please send us in those questions. They don't have to be good. They don't have to be important. This one isn't either one of those, but I think it's fun to talk about. So here we go. It is from Josh Curtin via email. Oh, and the email is, of course, contact@40kbadcast.com. Josh says, "Good morning, bad bro and fuck man. You're an orc in the 41st millennium. What vital parts are you putting the most padding on? I guess head transplants are a thing, and helmets are extremely un-orky." The reason I brought this question in, Campbell, is because I want to have the discussion with you about, do orcs in the 41st millennium have genitals?
I knew you were going to ask, do orcs have dicks? I knew you were going to ask it. Okay. All right.
You can hear him in the background, like furiously pulling files out of a folder. I've got all this evidence that says that they do.
No, what you don't see is the like cork board behind me with like a bunch of red string being pulled from dot to dot to dot to dot, pointing over whether or not orcs have dicks. Okay, let's get a start here. Look at an average orc by model. Look at the crotch. Is there any side pipe going on?
Ooh, there's a little bit of a bulge, IIRC.
I do not think so. I have painted quite a few orc taints in my time, and I have never once noted any sort of explicit anatomy in that area.
Talk about a fucking pull quote. Okay, so you're saying that they're flat as a board down in the zone.
They are rather Ken doll-esque in that area. Now, that being said, the Savage Orc models for Age of Sigmar / Fantasy do show they have butts.
Ooh.
So they do and things such as the drops and sumps and so on. Like there's a lot of references to orcs pooping.
Okay,
so that is clearly
have a cloaca? Are they a monotreme?
Well, the thing is, they're fungi. They don't actually need to have any sort of reproductive organ. They just shed and new orcs happen.
Okay, but they do eat with their mouths. Do they absorb all of the material they eat, or do they poop some out?
They poop it out.
So they do have an execra orifice.
Yeah, I mean, also don't forget there is a model of a grot shitting in an orc helmet. Like,
oh my god,
this is canon. This is canon.
I think there have been jokes in Caiaphas Cain books about orc poop also.
Yes, no, orc poop is canon.
Okay, so orcs poop,
right?
But they don't fuck.
Right, orcs don't fuck.
Okay, orcs don't have dicks.
Right,
or any other sexual organs.
No,
because they're fungus. They reproduce with spores.
Right.
Now, I do have the Xenology book. I don't know if you've read that one.
I know of it, but I have not read it.
I have it. It's amazing. If you can find it, listeners, because it's out of print, if you can find it on eBay or something, go fucking buy it if you've got the funds, because it's worth it. It's a ton of fun, a lot of cool stuff in that one. But they do have an orc who died in captivity and was dissected, and I saw no evidence of reproductive organs on that.
I did not think there's any orc hog on display there.
Save
for the ones being written by boar boys.
Josh's question, where do you put the most padding? And the answer is, I think, quite obviously, the mouth, because orc currency is teeth, and that's where you keep your teeth in your mouth. And so you want to have a nice gob going
Well, that's the thing. Now, an iron gob is also a symbol of authority. So not only are you showing off that you are not one to fuck with, you are protecting your teeth at the same time. It is very... Now, the real question is, are there any orc surgeons skilled enough to make orc braces that could hold those teeth in place otherwise? And beyond that, are there any giant orc mouth guards they can wear?
The mouth guards, mouth squigs.
Oh, of course. Which is a mouth guard that has a mouth of its own. Well, that's the thing. If someone tries to punch you, the squig just bites their hand off.
Perfect. Yeah.
You win.
Yeah, I don't know about orc dentists though. That seems like a scam, like an orc scam, like for an orc to get more teeth is to be like, like, oh boys, I'm the dentist. Come here and let me clean your teeth. And then he steals all the teeth.
I think that's actually the conceit behind Loopy's orc army. Loopy from the Masters of the Forge podcast. Yeah. He has his wog drill teeth, and his war boss is an orc dentist.
Oh, I like that. That's fun.
Yeah, and he's even got like a big drill for an arm. But yeah, I think we can both agree that it is going to be the mouth region, like the gob.
Oh, mate, when was the last time you flossed?
You were there.
All right, Josh, I hope that answers your question. It was a good one. Thank you for writing that in. That's fun. All right, so we're going to move on to our one and only segment of the show. This time it is 40K Book Club, Dark Imperium by Guy Haley. So I listened to this via audiobook. I believe you did too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I did.
And whoo boy, does this book meander. So... just like this show. Let's get into it, Campbell. I would love it if you would give us a quick plot synopsis of Dark Imperium by Guy Haley, and then we can go into our thoughts about it.
Over which plot? Because there's 4.
Let's hit all 4.
Okay, because as is it's not an anthology book, but it's an anthology book. Like there are 4 short stories, or there's essentially, I'd say, a novella, 2 short stories, and 1 like White Dwarf short story, for length we're talking here.
Okay.
So the main meat of the book is around Reboot Gilman being back in the Dark Imperium and wondering what the fuck is going on. Like he is here, he is confused, but he's still trying to do his best. And I think this is I'm glad that this is the biggest part of the book, because I think this is the best part of the book, because it's just Gilman being sort of a point of view character for the audience in a way, because he is experiencing this wild new world that's nothing like the one he remembers, but also being, your big damn hero who is fighting the bad guys and doing the good things and fighting the good fight at every opportunity. Now, the next short story, I don't mean to be demeaning to Guy Haley, but these really do read like short stories, is about these 2 guardsmen who are just... they've been shipped to Iax, which is a medical planet. It's like a hospital world. And you're experiencing this like Nurgle breakout or, contagion breakout while they're there. And they are just slowly dying and ultimately really not mattering in the book that much. They're kind of just there to show you how awful chaos is and set the stage for that final battle.
Nope. Those 2, like, it starts out with like, oh, the horrors of war. Oh, it's been so terrible fighting these plague marines. There is a cool like little part of that where it talks about a guard squad taking on a single plague marine and how difficult it is for them to kill one, and the shit that gets involved with that. And that's cool. That's a cool little bit there. But it breaks down to basically these 2 guys had to fight plague marines, and now they're both fucked up. And Nurgle invasion on the hospital planet, because of course that's where the Nurgle invasion would come from. And like they don't even start it. They're just there, and then they both die, and then it takes a hard left turn into let's have a bunch of Nurgle demons talk to one another for a while.
Oh, well, let's not get to that just yet, because I don't want to. I do not want to undersell the chapter that is just a Skype call between like Mortarion, Typhus, Kurgath, and I think Nurgle himself. Anywho, so
it's a fucking teleconference.
It is that. I don't usually listen to audiobooks on higher speed, but that is a 1.5x chapter if ever I heard one. All right, so the next book in this thing is is Captain Felix taking us on a guided tour of all the new Primera Space Marine models. He is a captain of the Grey Shields, which are the Primaris Marines that haven't yet been assigned to chapters. Yeah. And it's basically him and his gang of chapter stereotype friends who they're like, when they all go off to the different chapters, it reads kind of like a bunch of high schoolers describing the colleges they got accepted at. And it's like, are you telling me that like Snorri Svensson, who talks like this, Outlander, is the one who got accepted to the Space Wolves?
I like to fight things and drink all the time.
Finally awake. This whole episode just bad accents, but it's just like these chapter stereotype Space Marines who I'm kind of confused how they are inured in this chapter sort of thing when they don't live in those chapters. Yeah. Because like, how are you a Blood Angel guy when you don't know any Blood Angels? Just kind of doing that whole thing. And it's just that is straight up Bolger porn. That book is straight up Bolger porn. And the final book, which actually, I know I said the stuff with Gilliman was the best. I think this might be the best, which is, this is the short, it's only like one chapter that eventually dovetails a little bit into the end of the book, but it is Calgar being like a bored cop on desk duty. Yeah. Like, you're off the force, Calgar. You're on desk duty. And
I called that chapter Guy Haley thinks up a reason for Calgar to exist.
No, he is a bored cop on desk duty whose job it is to save the youths.
The youths.
And you know, I actually like this because it humanizes Calgar in a way, because it's him just more or less doing like conflict resolution, like non-hostile conflict resolution with like a bunch of misguided kids. I actually kind of like that. And it also, the rest of it is just him being very conflicted over his dad taking his job.
Yeah, that's something I thought was actually kind of fun, because they check in on Calgar, and Calgar's just like, cool, I'm so Ultramar, we defended it, or I'm sorry, like, we're defending it. There's fights, whatever, but Big Man's back in charge, so I'm just gonna, I don't know, hang out and look at stuff. Look at these reports.
Yep. Now, there is a big... this book does have kind of a Poochie problem, where whenever Gilliman's not on screen, all the other characters should be asking, where's Gilliman?
Well, they have that like little subplot with the priest guy, right?
Yes.
With Gilliman.
I thought it was actually...
So let's break it down a little bit. So we forgot to mention two things. One is that this is at the end of the Indomitus Crusade. So it's like 100 or 200 years after the Cicatrix Maledictum opens up in the galaxy. So so Gilliman came back. He went and met with the Emperor, who was either very impressive or not impressive. It's ambiguous. And then he comes out of there and he's like, all right, y'all, I'm in charge. I'm going to lay shit down. We got to worry about these chaos motherfuckers. Oh, by the way, this guy, Belisarius Call, my dude, who you haven't met before, but he's around. He did a bunch of stuff, and now we're using it all. And then he's like, all right, Indomitus Crusade. And he brings all these Primaris guys who are not yet assigned to chapters, and he uses them in this crusade. And then as the crusade is going on, he's like, okay, you group of Blood Angels, go meet up with your friends. You group of Dark Angels, go meet up with your friends. And like, he's sending the kids home from soccer practice, basically. And
that's very true.
And they all go do that. And then Gilliman's like, all right, now I've got to stitch this Imperium back together and find out a way somehow to get to the other side of the Dark Imperium and figure out what's going on over there. And all these chaos guys are real bad and blah. And that's his thought process. But he's got like a bunch of shit to do, because he's got to deal with the entire Imperium. So he's got to find a new like head priest guy. And so he's like, all right, I don't like these religious guys, but I need them on my side. He's being very pragmatic about it. And he finds a head priest guy that like initially seems like, okay, cool. This guy, like, he fights, like, he's reasonable. He's not a complete zealot. But then, like, as the book goes on, it's like you get a little bit in his head, and he like sees Gilliman as like this actual religious figure, like a saint come back to life kind of thing. And he like his zealotry intensifies.
Well, I think it's really I like this aspect of it, because it's cool to get a look into Gilliman's head here too, because the chapter around him is frustrated. Like, I think maybe it was Sicarius is like frustrated that there's these ancient, like, ultramarine relics. These are storied relics from time immemorial. And Gilman's like, yeah, that was my coffee cup. It's like, yeah, that was my back pillow. Like, why are you worshiping these things? These are just regular things they're regular things for him, but to everyone else, they're like prized relics. And you have him like questioning the emperor's divinity along with his own divinity, and he still has to deal with this religious advisor who thinks he's a god, and I think that's really cool.
Gilliman doesn't know how to talk to people from the 41st millennium. He's constantly just like what the fuck do I say to you idiots to make you not believe this dumbass shit.
All right, let's wind it back, because there's actually a lot that sort of does happen in this book. Because speaking of, like, he's not used to things in the 41st millennium. The book starts during the Scouring.
Yes.
Like, the book starts in the 30,000s when he's hunting down Fulgrim. And I like that it starts with this because it's a heresy tie-in, and you even have like Aenid Thiel shows up as like the captain of the second company, and like that's cool. There's a few little name drops like that, but having this kind of gives the book a sense of history that I think, like, this book was clearly meant to be an intro to the setting, and I feel like it's important to establish these things without getting too deep into them. And he's here to hunt down Fulgrim, and Fulgrim is sort of written and voiced like Liquid Snake, down to being like the taunting use of like, brother, you have the inferior genes. Yeah. And they have the sword fight. Gilman loses, and you have like his own death from his point of view, which I thought was actually super cool. Yeah, and like it is the book kind of peaking very early on.
That version of Fulgrim, I had in my mind's eye. Remember the Disney Robin Hood film, the animated one? I had the snake who is like Prince John's advisor or something. Like that's who I thought Fulgrim was. In that whole thing, he's like, Reboot Gilliman, you have wronged yourself by coming to hunt me.
Yeah, it rules. No, like that's great. Like, the problem is that fight, and then like the comeback, like it sets up him fighting Fulgrim again. So you're reading this book being like, all right, when's Fulgrim gonna come into it again? Because that's like clearly. Like, narratively, that's the thing that makes sense. Like, your hero. Well, that's the thing. Your hero gets his ass kicked by the bad guy at the start, and he goes up to the mountains to train like Rocky and get all jacked. It'd be like, and at the end he doesn't get to fight him. Like, I know this is part one of a trilogy apparently, so I have a gut feeling there's going to be like book 3, and it's going to coincide with the new Fulgrim model or something like that, because this whole thing's a tie-in. But it was very disappointing that when you get to the end of the book, there's just kind of like a random boss fight and not actually a fight against Fulgrim. Like, I get why that doesn't happen narratively
in the whole story. It's not. There's no way it's going to happen.
I don't know. It's a trilogy, so
they're not making a fucking Fulgrim model.
We don't know that.
I don't know that. I don't know that at all. But they're not making a fucking Fulgrim model.
Well, let's talk about models we do have, because when the Primaris Marines come onto the screen,
it's Mortarion. That's what this whole thing is leading up to, him fighting Mortarion.
It's just narratively frustrating to have his ass get kicked by one guy and to have him fight an unrelated guy.
Nobody is over here saying that this is a book that's not going to narratively frustrate the readers. It's not a good book. I like Guy Haley. He puts out some good books. This ain't one of them. You're right. It's a collection of books. I want to rank these stories real quick.
Okay.
I want to rank them. I think I'm with you. I think Gilliman's story is the best because it's the largest, it's the most complete story, and there's actually some really cool, interesting stuff that happens in there where he talks about how the Imperium is run from the Imperial Regent's point of view, which is very interesting.
Yeah, no, that stuff's great. And actually, I like that they even have bits about him discussing administration and running the Empire, but they're handled off screen. So you don't have to read a chapter of a bunch of guys having a meeting, sitting around a table, doling out responsibilities. Like a chapter.
There is one chapter that is a meeting. And buddy, it's a good one.
Yeah, it's one of the last 2. It's one of the last 4 of the book. Like 2 of the last 4 chapters of the book are just Skype calls.
So no, my favorite Skype call is Gilliman and the Call Inferior.
Yeah,
let's talk about the Call Inferior real quick because it's my favorite character in the book. The Call Inferior is a completely heretical artificial intelligence that Belisarius Call has constructed and then disguised, and is using it to help Gilliman make decisions while they are away from one another.
And
because
it's like
they're on other sides of the galaxy. Belisarius Cawl is fantastic. I fucking love this guy because he just does whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah.
And then he's like, people are like, wait a second, Cawl, is this heresy? And he's like, what are you talking about? It's not fucking heresy. Look around. I got fucking heads and jaws over here. They're servitors. Don't even fucking worry about it. What are you doing? Hey, how's your new projects over there? Huh? How's your servitors? How's your fucking brains, you know? What? Well, AIs. Never. I would never do something like that. Are you kidding me? Hey, you want lunch? We could go get lunch.
Jesus Christ.
No, the Belisarius Cawl, he created this thing, and Gilliman knows it's illegal AI. He knows it. But he's like, Cawl dressed it up enough so people are kind of, they kind of think it's not AI, so we're just going to let it slide.
Well, there's like a bit of him talking with it, kind of being like, "Are you?" And he's like, "I don't know. I might be."
Because he keeps calling it Cawl, and the AI is like, "I am not Cawl. I am just a simulacrum of Cawl." And I think it's really funny. And it's not the best dialogue, and like nothing really happens because the Cawl Inferior basically is like, I will help you if you make me the leader of Mars and the leader of the Adeptus Mechanicus. And Gilman's like, dude, I can't do that. Everybody would get pissed at me because you're a crazy person. And Call's like, oh, well, I'm not a crazy person. I'm just a simulacrum of a crazy person.
I also think it's a great way to explain why Belisarius Cawl isn't half of the Admech armies on the tabletop.
He's everywhere. See, I like the Cawl Inferior. I do think that's a pretty cool chapter. I like the Marnius Calgar stuff. We already talked about that. I'm going to rank Guardsman A and Guardsman B, dying and then becoming Nurgle demons ahead of the fast times at Grey Shield High.
Well, so here's the problem with Fast Times at Grey Shield High is it does stop for commercial breaks, and those commercial breaks are G.I. Joe commercials. I'm going to read this excerpt from the first battle with Primaris Marines. I know I'm getting a jump on Factor fanfiction here, but 3 repulsor grav tanks fell from the sky like stones, decelerating rapidly and coming to a gentle halt a couple of meters above the ground, right by the flanking Iron Warriors. Their pulsing, aggressive grav impellers knocked the traitors sideways. One of the Iron Warriors yanked a melt-a-bomb from his side and dove under the tank, seeking to attach the charge and destroy the Primaris armor. The traitor had evidently never faced a repulsor before. The tank's pounding grav engines squashed him flat, leaving a silver blurred human outline pressed into the ground, leaking blood.
It's like a fucking Looney Tunes.
The thing is, I imagine right after this is like when you have like the stack of clear blue plastic blocks and the kid smashes the repulsor through them and is like, yeah, take it to Mortarion.
Yeah, suck on that, Perturabo.
Some assembly required.
Yeah. All right. That's
it's such a toy commercial.
Yeah. It's fun. There are fun parts of the book. Like the battle parts are fun. But here's my main problem with the book, and it's not that it doesn't really do anything, or not all that much happens, except it sets the stage for a bunch of stuff happening, and I think it does a pretty good job of like telling you what the current story of 40K is gonna be. You know what I mean? But my biggest problem is, man, does Guy Haley like describing things?
Oh, and he likes describing gross things. He's very good at describing gross things.
He loves describing things where, again, I listened to it on an audiobook, and like he will give you like 5 whole minutes on describing a hangar. Like as a part of a ship.
Time.
And it's just like, dude, just say they're in a fucking hangar. We could put our fucking minds to it. We got it. It doesn't matter. It's just get to the fucking conversation that they're having. Like, was there a word minimum, Guy Haley? Did you have to have a certain number of pages, or else Black Library would be mad at you? Come on. And then when he describes the fucking Nurgle Skype call, and like how the fungus,
that chapter is so hard to read or listen to.
When the fungus like slithers together and makes a simulacrum, again with the word fuck, clamps and simulacrums this episode. What's the
vocab words of the day? Yeah.
It makes like a fungus version of the person's face that's talking. Like and we're described that in like extreme detail. And while it's Nurgle Skype, cool. If he had used the words, they logged on to Nurgle Skype and had a conversation, I would have been like, okay, I think I can picture what's going on. It's probably some sort of fungus Skype.
Let's think. The breadth and depth of the descriptions is, I think it might read better than it sounds because it's very repetitive.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah.
And it's a lot worse when it's in like gross guy voices, because rest in peace, the narrator doing the gross Nurgle voices, because it's not just like, you know, the Nurgle guy was like, you're dead. He's like, oh, you're going to rot for all eternity. And it's like, God damn, dude, they don't pay you enough, man. That's got to be rough. Like,
I'm a
that's rough.
Because I sound like Edgar from Men in Black.
Like, it gets really not
Phlegmy.
fun to listen to. Yeah, it's very phlegmy. Like, each of these dudes was like pounding half gallons of whole milk, like before each of these things. Just like, I got to work up a good like sort of sound here. I got to get a real
like
sort of sound here
down your throat before you could go do your Nurgle takes.
Oh God, yeah. Because and the thing, and it just. The fact that it is so like that level of grossness with like the descriptors too, like I had to stop at one point when like Kugath, I think, he steps forward and his toenail catches on his loose skin flap and tears open an intestine and shit starts spilling out. And I'm like, no fucking thank you, man. I can handle war violence. I can handle how many times I've heard or read in a book like, hey, he punched him with his power fist and cored him like an apple, or whatever repetitive prose there are. Like, I can deal with a lot of this shit, but there's a level where I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry. That was a genuine gross sound. I'm sorry.
I hate it so much.
Dude, that's it. It is a result of doing these incredibly phlegmy voice. I am very sorry for the verisimilitude.
Okay,
here.
well, let's start wrapping it up here.
All right, I've got a few high points I can throw.
Give us the high points.
Okay, because aside from lines like where he describes a horde of flies as, quote, like bees from a hive, which, no, they're like flies. I really like one thing in this book is its focus on symbols and the importance of symbols, but also the hollowness of symbols, because it has the end of the Indominus Crusade, which is a mirror of the Triumph at Ulanor, where Gilliman gives a big speech in front of all these guys saying, you know, we did great. We got him. We're going to keep going and we're going to form a new Imperium. And then he's like, I don't even know what the fuck this planet is. This planet doesn't matter. This is just a hollow symbolic gesture just to inspire the troops. And that's what a lot of Gilliman is doing in this book, is he's doing these kind of hollow gestures that he's ultimately just tired and just trying to keep things together because he knows he's got these responsibilities. And he's like, and he's wondering why he's even alive.
Okay, you know what would be really cool? They're not going to fucking do it because it's Games Workshop and they're not going to fucking do it. But like a book series exploring Gilliman's Onway. Like how he doesn't believe in his cause, how he can't relate to the Imperium, how he just hates everything about humanity in the 41st millennium. Like that would be sick as shit. But they're not going to fucking do it because it clashes with the idea of Gilliman being this hero on the tabletop that's like, you know, fucking vanquishing shit in the name of the Emperor, which, I mean, would he?
Well, you know those days at work where you're just like, just kind of write another email, saving our file, just another day at the job. That might be him at the front of the battle line, just lopping off heads like, yep, just a regular Tuesday and the Cicatrix Maledictum, just decapitating demons. This is just my shit now. Like, there's not a special rule for ennui on the tabletop, all right?
No, it's a great word. Another vocab. This is like the vocab episode.
A lot of talk of vocab, a lot of glottal sounds, a lot of orc anuses.
Give me another high point.
Okay. Shit, I might be out of high points. I've got a hell of a low point that makes me laugh. Is at Espendoria, where you have like, this is Calgar's like, or not Calgar, Gilliman. He's this tactical genius known for logic and strategy. He's one who crushes and defeats his enemies with facts and logic, and he lands a massive ground assault to advance through mud and muck in open ground against a bunch of plague marines because I guess he forgot what drop pods were. Sorry, Primaris Marines can't ride in drop pods, except I think
they don't have drop pods.
No, they do in one of the kids' books, but not in this one. And you have Felix, who is appointed as one of the commanders of this battle, and he just runs forward alone and wonders where my dude's at.
Yep.
Because
isn't he like get stuck in the mud?
Yeah,
and have to get pulled out at some point too.
And that's the only time he's ever really in any danger is him going like, the vents on my suit are clogged with mud. This is bad.
Like, this mud's pretty deep.
Yeah,
I better walk a 1,000-pound suit of armor into it. Oh, I'm sinking. If only there was like a dreadnought or something nearby that could pull me out of this. There is.
Just pull him out like a claw machine. And you get to the end of this chapter or the end of this battle because this battle is like the second to last chapter of the book because the two chapters before that were the Skype
while this
call.
battle was going on, I could not remember why. I was just like, who are they fighting? Who are they fighting for? What is this?
The problem is they're fighting Death Guard, and although like Typhus and Mortarion and Kugath are all chatting, they're not really in this whole situation. He's just fighting a bunch of nameless, faceless Plague Marines, and they just get punked like a bunch of nameless, faceless Plague Marines. They may as well just be, demons or zombies in a video game.
Yep.
And you get to the end of this thing where it's kind of an echo of chapter 1 again, which I think the book does. It tries to do really hard, but doesn't really work. Where you think it's going to be Fulgrim, you think it's going to be versus, someone of Fulgrim's level.
Yeah, Mortarion.
And instead it's just a fight against a demon I've never heard of before. And then the book just kind of ends.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of over.
Yeah. Not a great example of Black Library's potential. Guy Haley does write some good stuff, but I think he was very constrained in this book by what they wanted to do with it as opposed to what could have been done with it.
Yeah, this smells very strongly of like, we need these high points to be hit.
Yep.
And we need a tie-in for the box game. It needs to be out in time for the box game.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, I'm curious if this stuff sets up for Plague War. I haven't listened to Plague War yet.
I'm like 10% in on Plague War. So far, it's just been a lot of that head priest guy being like, how do I make Gilliman realize that he is a saint?
Yeah, that seems, that is at least an interesting sort of notion. That's at least an interesting perspective.
I think it's more interesting than a bunch of Primaris Marines getting slowed down by mud and getting shot at by Plague Marines.
Yeah, and a bunch of Space Marines describing their safety schools, yeah.
I think it would be very interesting to explore the dynamic between Gilliman and the rest of the High Lords. Like, that would be something cool because the High Lords are fucking nuts.
Yeah, I think like the most interesting parts of this book have nothing to do with Primaris Space Marines, have nothing to do with power armor and bolters. The most interesting bits of the book are introspection and conversation and weird 41st millennium shit like
and the call inferior.
Like that's weird shit. That's weird. That's cool. I like it. I want more of that. And it just gets kind of bogged down in descriptions of gross diseases. Like, again, they're not badly written descriptions of gross diseases. They're just really gross. Yeah. And so on.
Well, let's move on to let's get the weird shit that we all want. Okay. Let's get some of that weird shit, Campbell, in our marquee segment, Fact or Fan Fiction. Now, you've had a month to prepare. Or
that's a shame.
Or did you furiously search the internet earlier this afternoon for Fact Fiction? It doesn't matter. Don't answer, because I know you've got something good for me. So please share.
It was a day like any other. Wake up, hit the snooze button, go back to sleep, then have a scout sent to my room to yell at me for not waking up on time. It's pretty damn hard to wake up after a night filled with the blood of those Dark Eldar scum spattered all over your power armor. I woke up with great misery and walked down to the mess hall of our basic base. I sat down to eat my daily bowl of gray stuff that was supposed to have a bajillion vitamins in it, thinking about the horrible taste of the crap I was being fed, and recounting what had happened over the past month or so. This is the 41st millennia, more specifically, year 40,000, month 8, day 21. But I could still remember the grim events that all started on month 7, day 14. This is how people talk.
Yeah.
I was only one of the Blood Angels Squad 8 sent to the ruins of Albion to see what the hell happened there. There were 7 of us. Sergeant Reed, Tchar, Juman, Millhouse, Sampar, and Arier, both on bikes, I may add, and myself, Tara Mirar.
Fucking Millhouse.
The Sarge said we were to follow the Belarus River to the crash site, but some of us disagreed and we came to the patch of land where the path to the Belarus River forks off to another path that leads to the ruins of Albion. Millhouse, Arier, and I argued that we could be ambushed if we were to take the Belarus River. Orcs were rumored to have a couple of camps in the forest there. If we take the Belarus River path, we don't know we'll be ahead, yelled Millhouse. At least we know where we're going, replied the Sarge with a slight sneer in his voice. It'll be safer the other way, thought. I couldn't help but agree with Millhouse. Hey, look, I'm the sergeant here, and you'll do whatever the hell I tell you to do. If I tell you to jump, you jump. If I tell you to run, you run. If I tell you to rush into the middle of a Dark Elder encampment, you better do not. If anyone here doesn't agree with me, they'll deal with my chain sword. He snapped the switch on and off, which made the blades whir for a second.
Vroom, vroom.
Squad 8 was a squad not to be reckoned with when it came to the subject of determination, but even Tchar, the most stubborn of the group, knew when to shut up. We walked down the grassy path, on the alert for any orc ambushes. Everything was silent except for the occasional screeching of lemon owls and the gentle hum of the bikes.
I thought they were fighting Dark Eldar.
Orc ambushes. Those who had the knives slashed the long branches of trees in the way, while others had their bolt guns at the ready. Hey, what's that up there? Whispered Arier. He pointed towards two ultramarine helmets protruding from a bush about 20 meters away.
Uh-oh.
What the hell are they doing here? They're supposed to be battling with the Tyranids in Rathgore. Tchar, go up there and see what they're doing, barked the Sarge's commands.
Go alone.
Tchar slowly walked over to the bush. He only got 3 meters away from it before a long stick with one of the heads impaled on them plunged straight into his chest. He stumbled a few steps before exploding into a bloody mess. Ooh. We were all shocked. Period. None of us could raise our bolt guns and pull the trigger. Period. That is, until the second head-on-a- stick came flying towards us. It's a stick bomb! Retreat! Retreat! Yelled the Sarge at the top of his lungs. You see, turning around and running isn't exactly the easiest thing to do, especially if you're wearing power armor. Sompar and Arier had even more of a problem because of the bikes. Blood Angel Squad 8 ran as fast as they could. I envied Arier because of the ability to get as far away even quicker than we could. Sompar, however, wasn't as lucky. With an IQ of only 95, he wouldn't even be able to figure out a simple riddle that a child could easily answer. Being an easy target, the stick bomb flew straight toward him, or at least that's what we thought. It hit the gas tank and the bike flew up right in front of our eyes. We were a pretty far distance away from him, but some of us weren't gonna the oncoming flames. Cool. We ran even harder, watching as Sergeant Reed tripped and was overtaken by the fiery explosion.
Wait a second. The guy on the bike was the slowest? Okay.
I can still remember his screams of agony as he was burned to the bone. Usually the rest of us would become coordinated because the sergeant was killed, except for the fact that now the only command would be to run.
Okay, so a couple of things. One, fan fiction.
Yes. This is The War of Blood by Mort McShort, and this fanfic is dedicated to Grass McAss, Beast McFeast, Hut McNut, Hefty McLefty, and any of my other friends with screwed up nicknames.
Okay. How much of this is self-aware, do you think?
I think almost none of it. Okay. I'm going to be very honest.
Because like making the Blood Angel Sergeant or whatever stupid and like
with an IQ of 95,
completely unqualified for his job, I thought was actually a very nice touch.
Yeah, I think
I was like, oh, this motherfucker gets it. This is fun, but then it's also not fun.
All right. I mean, I would say the incompetent leadership in the jungle where there's traps and ambushes is very much like, oh, you saw a Vietnam movie once. You watched Platoon. Your dad let you watch Platoon.
You know where I want to take my motorcycle?
Into the jungle?
Into the deep jungle.
Oh, especially into the deep jungle.
That's where I think it would be very good to use.
That's where a stick bomb will fly straight towards you, or at least it's what you thought, instead it hits the gas tank. That bothers me. It flew straight towards him, or at least that's what we thought. I hate that like second guessing your own prose, like extra narratively. It sucks. It sucks so much.
It does suck, Campbell. Thank you for highlighting that point. All right. Well, that was terrible. We're all stupider because of it. So thanks. But let's start the process of getting out of here. And before we do that, we got some plugs to make.
We do.
We'll start with the Badcast Beatdown 2019 Sports versus Anime. It's on. It's at 2 p.m. on Thursday of Nova. It's like the 29th, 28th, something like that. I don't fucking know. Doesn't matter. Thursday at Nova, 2 p.m. Table 69 in the 40K main hall. We are going to play some fucking Warhammer 40,000, bring 1,500 points, dress as either sports or anime, and find an opponent and play a game. That's it.
Yep, it's nice and simple. It is unofficial as hell. Do not tell Mike Brandt or anyone else.
No, keep it on the hush. Don't tell nothing. I don't need no talking. Well, I'm doing my thing. Sorry, that was a quick ludicrous break here on the podcast.
That's okay. It's allowed.
Okay, Badcast Beatdown. We talked about that. We're on social media. You can find us on Twitter. I am at DB_Sleazy. He is at Brother SRM. Twitter is terrible. I prefer to use it for baseball news, but then there's a bunch of other shit that happens on it too, and I can't get away from it, and I hate it.
Yep, Twitter is a portal into hell, and occasionally there's a cute cat video in the middle of there.
You're also on Tumblr, where you post pictures of your models.
Yep, that is at cam2d.tumblr.com. I have been posting all the Premiere shit I've been painting, so anything I've talked about is there. But what's worse than Tumblr or Twitter is Facebook. And if you go to facebook.com/40kbadcast, you will go to the closest thing to a 40k Badcast page we got. So that's where I usually post pictures of my games because Dan doesn't use Facebook because he's smarter than me. Hey. And where I'll also post any sort of updates coming up, including updates that I've been posting on Goonhammer, which is the website that does not pay us for sponsorship because they don't have any money, but we post there sometimes. And I recently posted a way too long article about heraldry that I'm extremely proud of under their How to Paint series.
It was very good. How to Paint Everything series, mind you.
Yeah, How to Paint Everything heraldry, where I go into a whole bunch of history and painted examples, and it totally isn't just an excuse for me to post a bunch of pictures of my own models.
I was supposed to write a thing on Necromunda for Goonhammer a couple weeks ago, but my mom passed away, so I have not gotten to that yet.
Yep.
But goonhammer.com is where it's at. It is a fantastic resource for research. There you go. On all things 40K and related. It's great. The Rob Jones, who's been on the show before, who's run the Astratus campaign that I'm taking part in, he's I guess he's considered the editor-in-chief, and I see him on our Discord server cracking that whip, getting people to post. He and our friend Liam are doing a fantastic job over there, and all the rest of the guys. And so you should definitely go check it out because it is worth it.
I would also like to plug an upcoming convention in the Boston area called ArmorCon. It's armor with a U, so it's the British spelling. Yeah, I know. We won the Revolutionary War. We don't need to have U's in our armor anymore.
I thought we got rid of these extra letters. Why do we fucking need them?
Hey, U's.
Hey, U's. What are you doing, U's?
Use, what are you doing?
What are you using a use for?
So that is ArmorCon. Fuck. That is October 11th through 13th in Framingham, Massachusetts at the Sheraton that looks like a castle. I went to a Star Trek convention there when I was a kid, and I saw Ricardo Montalban there. So that was cool. So that is, again, its first year. It's a brand new convention. So if it rules, I can't take credit for it. If it rules, I will take full credit for it. If it sucks, I will not take any credit for it.
Here's a question.
I am not involved in any way. It's just local.
Very important question. Framingham. Did they attempt to spell Farmingham and fuck up? And then just went with it?
First of all, that town is Farmingham. That's in West Mass, obviously. Spelled the same, totally different.
Yes.
To my knowledge, it was a town. I can't come up with fake history about this. It's called Framingham.
Is definitely the most sophisticated of all the states. Heard it here first. Okay.
You heard it here first.
Send us emails, please. Contact at 40kbadcast.com. I need questions for We Make the Call. I also want to see more pictures of your models and more battle reports and whatever the fuck else. Just come talk to us. We're there. Campbell's very good at responding to emails. I haven't been because of the last few weeks of my life have been terrible, but I will in the future. I'm starting to feel a little better. You know what I mean? So get at us. Contact at 40kbadcast.com. You can also get more of us on our Patreon. Patreon.com/40kbadcast, I would guess.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're on Patreon. We have subscriber-only episodes, a ton of them out there. There are three levels, that you can support the show at. You can find more about that on the Patreon, but I suggest strongly suggest you check that out. We're going to be putting out another subscriber episode very soon. I think we're going to record it on Friday of this week, the 26th.
Yep.
And it will probably be, I will endeavor to get it out before August 1 and make it
because
make it a July,
we need to have a July episode
because it's supposed to be July. So that's what I'm going to do. Oh, also, we have a Spreadshirt account where you can buy cool shirts that we have designed. And when I say we, I mean me and not Campbell at all, because I am the graphic designer out of the two of us, not him.
Yeah, you're the guy who went to art school. Yeah, of course.
I went to a school, but I did not study
I went to a
arts.
school that doesn't exist anymore.
No, Campbell has put out some great designs on our Spreadshirt. It is shop.spreadshirt.com/40k Badcast. There are a ton of great designs out there. The Edging Enthusiast shirt is my favorite, and I think that you all should go and get one, and just wear it in public and try to explain it to as much people as possible.
Preferably strangers.
Yeah.
Preferably, I don't know, at church, wherever.
Okay, so that's it for plugs, Crumbles. Usually we hit this shit with a quote on the way out. So why don't you give it to us?
Yeah, here we go from my podcast notes here in way too big font with white text and a black background when nothing else is like that. Victory needs no explanation. Defeat allows none.
All right, we are out of here. We're the 40K Badcast. We're bad at 40K, and you can too. And call your mom, everybody. And we'll see you in the next one.
Later, nerds.